to order. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to welcome our residents and viewers to this regular meeting of June 11th, 2024. On tonight's agenda, we have 3 public hearings and 1 discussion item. We'll take the public hearings as shown on the agenda. Before we get into the public hearings, we have a housekeeping item to take care of. That would be the minutes from our May 14th, 2024 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Thank you. With that, then, we'll open up all 3 public hearings at this time. The first public hearing is a continued public hearing from our May regular meeting, dealing with 2 petitions for rezone on the southeast side of our community. Tony, you're going to take this one real quick?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. We are asking that this item be tabled indefinitely. The applicant is working with the developer and is working on providing additional plans and things like that, and we'll be submitting an updated set of applications probably within the next month or so. So we will obviously renotice every type of public hearing, so all the residents will be able to attend those when those come around. So.
And Tony, you mentioned you may expand the notification area there?
I will.
So everybody in that area should receive one?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. With that, then, I'd look for a motion to table the rezone petitions until a later date. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Winchidle.
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
Snowback.
Yes.
And at this time, the date is uncertain. So we will notice, or the city will notice you. There will be a full public hearing as there was in May. You certainly have an opportunity, if you have questions prior to that date, whether they be for the commission or for staff or even the city council, please just submit them to the city. They'll get to the right location and possibly be answered, or at least notice, or at least we know what questions you'll have if we can't. So, all right, we'll move into our second public hearing then. This is the Vermillion Commons 4th edition, preliminary and final plat and a PUD, planned unit development. The applicant is U.S. Homes, which is Lennar. It's located on the west side of our community on 220th Street and Denmark Avenue. Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Yes, we are reviewing the preliminary plat and preliminary PUD for Vermillion Commons 4th edition. This development is located west of Vermillion Commons Townhome Development, which is located at the intersection of 220th Street West and Denmark Avenue. The proposed development will consist of 134 total residential units. 68 of those units will be single-family lots, and 66 of those will be townhome lots spread over 20 net acres for a net density of 6.6 units per acre. Single-family lots would be on the north and west side of the development, and then the townhomes located on the southeast side of the development. Stormwater ponding is located on the west side and is adjacent to the Dakota County Conservation area. The minimum lot area proposed for this development is 4,800 square feet, with an average lot size for single family of just over 6,000 at 6,198 square feet. Minimum lot width is 40, and minimum lot depth would be 120 feet. As far as the setbacks are concerned, what is being proposed for a single family, front yard setback of 25 feet, side yard interior of 6, side yard corner of 20, rear yard of 25 feet. The townhomes will have a minimum setback from the roadway of 25 feet. The plat does contain 5 outlots labeled A through E. Outlot A will be dedicated as parkland with the final plat and is 1.5 acres. Outlot B is 4.1 acres and will contain the ponding for stormwater. Outlot C contains the private roads within the townhome section, and outlots D and E contain common areas for the townhomes. This is just a copy of the preliminary plat. So as you can see, the single-family homes are on the north and west side, with the townhomes being on the southeast side of the site. There will be 3 access points to this development, Lilac Drive and 218th Street West. Both will be extended east from the Vermillion Commons Townhome development. And then Poppy Drive will connect with 220th Street West on the south side of the development. The public roads, those being Lilac Drive, 218th Street West, Poppy Drive, and Poppy Lane, are shown with a 60-foot right-of-way and 32-foot wide roadway. The private roads within the townhome portion of the development will be at least 24 feet in width and will be required to be signed no on-street parking. Townhome dwellings are required to provide 2 off-street parking stalls per unit. Each unit will provide a double-car garage. Additionally, the townhome driveway will be, as I previously mentioned, a minimum of 25 feet in length, allowing for parking in the driveway. In addition, there will be 26 visitor parking spaces provided throughout the townhome portion of the development as well. As I previously mentioned, there will be a 1.5 acre park proposed on the north end of the development, labeled as Outlot A. Sidewalks are proposed on the west side of Lilac Drive, south side of 218th Street West, and on the east side of Poppy Drive. Dakota County has a 12-foot wide trail drainage and utility easement, which was granted back in 2022, that runs along the west and northern property boundary of this site. This easement will have to be shown on the final plat. As mentioned, they are looking to do this as a planned unit development. The property is currently zoned R3, which is our medium density residential, and they are proposing to rezone it to a R3 PUD. Proposed deviations include the allowing of single-family dwellings within the R3 zone, reducing minimum lot area for single-family lots to 4,800 square feet, reducing minimum lot width for single-family lots to 40 feet, increasing minimum front yard setback for single-family lots to 25 feet, increasing rear setback for single-family lots to 25 feet, increasing the maximum lot or building coverage for single-family lots to 45%, the allowance of private streets within the townhome development, and a reduce width of the private street to 24 feet. Our typical requirement is 26 feet, so they're asking a 2-foot deviation. The action that is requested tonight is recommend approval of the Vermillion Commons 4th edition preliminary plat and planned unit development contingent upon the following, and that being the satisfaction of all engineering comments, requirements, including construction plans for grading, stormwater, and utilities.
All right, thank you, Tony. I didn't have an opportunity to see if the applicant was here. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Good evening, Steve Trowski with Lennar. Thank you, Tony. Staff, council, appointed folks at Farmington have really been a joy to work with, and I do mean that. We've had great success in Farmington, and we're excited for mutual growth. So this community is designed to have an attractive price point. We all know that there's a housing shortage, and this type of product in this community really will help that. So our plan, to give you a little bit of a schedule, is after successful approval and permitting for a grading permit, we hope to get grading started in late July. Hopefully our first model home unit will put a shovel in the ground in November, with the hope for that to be ready for the spring parade of homes in 2025. Tony did a great job with the details. Happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, if you could stay available, we'd appreciate it. There may be some comments or questions from residents. If not, I suspect the commission will have a few. This is a public hearing. Are there any comments or questions regarding this application? Yes. You have to come into the podium, please.
Oh, you want me to come to the podium?
Could you please? Well, the reason is
So
the
you can hear
microphones can't, well, the microphones for the viewers can't hear you out there.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. My name is Lisa Berglund, and I live at 4787 220th Street. So I'm the little yellow house right here. I'm not opposed to the development or anything. I have several questions. So along right
Tony-
here.
Tony, could you look at her map and maybe bring
Which
up the
one are
site
you?
plan and
This
they
is
could?
me right
Okay.
here.
She's just to the
So, yeah. So I guess my question would be to you, maybe? I don't know who, but what kind of privacy fence is gonna be put along there?
Okay.
I have nothing right now. I'm trying to grow some little shrubs, cranberry high bush
Sure.
for a natural windbreak, but now the townhomes are gonna come in and that's gonna be my windbreak, but privacy fence.
That's a great question. Tony, could you bring up the site plan and show us exactly where she is? And then maybe Mr. Trowski, could you
All right,
blow it
so,
up a little bit?
well, here, what I'm gonna have to do, I think, is get out.
I should have written down all my questions and I forgot one of them.
That's okay.
I don't think that I'll be able to scroll in on this. But 220th Street is here.
Yep.
Her house is this area right here.
Yep.
Okay,
So right at the southeast corner of the site.
okay. Mr. Trowski, do you know in detail what's gonna be, what kind of berm, if any, or what kind of landscaping may be done for her benefit?
Well, great question. Thank you. This comes up a lot.
Yeah, I prefer a privacy fence.
So we always meet city requirements for privacy screening, landscaping, all of those items. So if the commission or council has some input for us, happy to take that back to the office and work with our engineer on that.
You have a lone resident, and then maybe there's more there.
There's three of us
three
right in
of
the
them,
row. There's
yeah.
me and then two more
Right,
to the east of me. So my next question would be, there's only three of us there. Would the developer want to come along and buy us out at some time?
boy, we don't get into negotiations like that, but
Yeah,
he's here, right
but
here
yeah.
listening to you, so.
Yeah. I mean, would you want us out of there?
We'll discuss that at another forum.
I mean, that's kind of a fear, so. So if I think of my other question, I will raise my hand
That's fine,
again.
Ms. Berglund. And, as long as we're on the topic of the privacy, I really think there should be something there for those three residents. So Tony, if you could note that and work with the developer if this is approved,
Yep, absolutely.
that, they're at least protected.
Yeah, and plus it's coming around on the north side of us too
Right,
eventually.
yeah.
So it'd be nice to have some sort of privacy fence.
It's been a while since I've been out there, but I know the
Yeah.
residents, when this plat was first entered into the city, they asked about the extension of 220th. Where's that at now?
We are currently in talks with the Vermillion Township on that, being that it's a town line road.
Okay,
So it's not just as easy as going in there and doing the improvements.
right,
So John, our city engineer, is working with them to come up with
Okay.
a design of that road. So it is in progress.
I know that was an issue for you or maybe your neighbors when this came up a while back.
Yeah, I was talking to my neighbor Jerry and we're also wondering, is it gonna be paved? I'm assuming it's gonna be developed and widened at some point.
Well, eventually it will be a county road, not for quite a while, but that would be the line in County Road 70 eventually.
Yeah, I won't see it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Right, so it would be, and again, we're going through that design right now. My guess is it might be a rural section. I don't know that that's been fully identified yet, but we are going through that process right now.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I do have a piece of information to share. So the vacant land north of her home that she mentioned, that will be developed at some point in the future. There's a pipeline easement going through that land, and so,
That's what my neighbor was telling me about the gas line.
yep. So there's a gas line, so hopefully it will be developed at some point in the future. I can't stand here and give you a firm date of when that would happen, but we'll take into account landscaping, trees, when that time comes.
Yeah, with knowing what you can and can't do within an easement at this point, so, all right. Any other comments or questions regarding this public hearing? Yes, sir. Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, my name's Nathan Ryan, 22390 Cambrian Way. So I noticed that in their proposal, they're saying that they want to, make the streets a little bit narrower.
Narrower, yeah.
So, you know, the average width of a fire truck, which is emergency vehicle, is over 8.5 feet. And so by reducing those 2 feet, and then on top of that, like we have snow, and you're gonna reduce that on at least another foot to 1.5 feet on either side. I'm not sure that's in the city's best interest or fire, you know, personnel's best interest to make those streets narrower. It seems, and if they're, I know this gentleman said affordable, I mean, you know, more affordable, but really they're wanting to do that simply so they can get more profit. This isn't about making anything more affordable by reducing public safety going through a street. It's about profit. The same is with those lot sizes too. So they're reducing their, you know, R3, I mean, it's almost by 15% of which are reducing those lot sizes. That's not to accommodate a less expensive home. That is to accommodate them making more money. Yeah. So, I definitely think the streets are too narrow. And, you know, we had a police officer come by our house 2 Super Bowls ago and disrupt our party. And our streets are not anywhere near this narrow. But she came to the door, pounding on our door, and was saying, there's too many cars that are parked in the street, and there's no way their fire truck can get through here. So if I'm getting that flack at my house from the police, I can only imagine what these residents are going to go through, taking 2 feet, not into account with snow either, which I definitely hope that you account for snow. You're not just, it's not just 2 feet. We have snow, sometimes for 6 months out of the year. So hopefully you consider that.
Yep, and we do, and those are good questions. I also, in my notes, had why the reduction of 2 feet. It is on the private roads, not on the city public roads, but on the private roads. And those would be the people that are buying your townhomes. So, you know, that is a concern. The 2 feet is because of?
So the 2 feet allows us to have more front yard setback. So we have to have a 25-foot driveway on those units. And so reducing the width of those private streets, and I will add that there's going to be no parking on the private streets. The public streets are to city standard, engineering standards, so there's no waiver requested there. But every foot that we can shrink a private street without parking allows us to basically put that home at an appropriate spot with the 25-foot front yard drive. So every foot that you increase something, it just compounds itself, and all of a sudden you've got drainage ditches in the backyard that you got to worry about and things like that. And so the 2 feet is not just a willy-nilly throw a dart at a dartboard and see what we come up with. There's engineering reasons for all of these numbers and distances and calculations that we come up with.
Okay, thank you for the input there. Any other comments or questions regarding this public hearing? Seeing none,
I think she has one.
One just real quick one.
yeah, go ahead.
So I'm looking up the map again. So concerning me, how much room is this between me and that townhome right there? Few feet? 6 feet?
Well, you'll have a road in between.
What?
Yeah, there'll be
In
a,
between me and this townhome?
well, no, actually, no, you won't. You'll
No.
have, the road goes around these 3 corners.
Yeah.
That'll all be open space. It's probably.
I mean, like hopefully future privacy fence, but I mean,
Right.
how close is this? I mean, just so I'm prepared. And I'm not
don't
surprised when they
know
start
that.
going up
It's probably at least 20 feet from
from my property line.
to the pad of the
Yeah. Okay,
house,
okay,
based off of the the distance of what the private
understood.
easement
Yeah,
is there.
thank you.
So.
All right, Commissioner Winchell.
Yeah, all questions I had written down. Concerning the fire truck, just looking at your map here. So the townhouse is on the west side of the development, that outlot E. Is there any reason you couldn't push the fourplex townhouses back to the west further and kind of adjust the housing to the south and then to the west to make wider radius turns there, and which creates inside is going to create you more room to turn as well for a fire truck?
That is something we looked at There's a drainage ditch or a drainage swale, as we call it, that goes through that outlot, and that needs to be a certain width and depth to carry the stormwater runoff to meet engineering code.
Understood. And then regarding that, back to the fence issue, but a separate area, or this area in the outlot. These houses that are built on Poppy with the backyards facing or into the townhouse development, is there gonna be any sort of fence between the two, a barrier between the two? Or is it just gonna be a swale and basically a drainage?
That is not something that our marketing team has determined yet. Take notes on this. I'm taking notes of all the questions and
Yeah.
go back to them. This is our first preliminary meeting for this, and so there's good feedback, and we take that back and we do listen and adjust accordingly.
Okay, and then parking on city streets are just the standard, Tony, correct?
Correct, on the city
Poppy.
street,
Okay.
correct.
Nothing further. I think it looks good. Thank you.
Commissioner Leto,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Snowbat.
I have no questions either.
I think you've answered mine. Tony, can you please go through the process of, I mean, this is preliminary, just so that Ms. Berglund and others know that there'll be another round for final?
Absolutely, yeah, this has to come back through for final plat approval and
Right.
final PUD. So at that time, we'll go back, take any comments that we did or receive, and make changes accordingly to that. And that would then be reflected in that final plat that will, at some point, come back to this commission for recommendation to the city council.
And I asked that question, not for the commission's benefit, maybe for our viewers and residents, is that when you get a preliminary plat, you can see it's pretty detailed. I mean, it's not the final one, though. There's still, they ask questions, the developer's listening, and he's going back and saying, the city has some heartburn with this, and we heard this from the residents, and, I really think we need to modify it, and city staff and engineering will look at it a second time, third time, whatever it takes, and make modifications accordingly. So I say that maybe for some, now we just lost power, so I don't know what else to say. So,
Interesting. All right. That's a first.
see, no, this is not on Dakota Electric System, so I just want to let that know. And do they have backup generators here?
We do.
Okay. They must have kicked in, or maybe it was just a blink on the distribution or transmission line. We're gonna take one quick pause here, because I want to make sure. We're okay?
We're good.
All right, we're gonna keep going then, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, we heard our pause, we can continue on. Tony, I don't know about your screens and everything?
Trying
Is
to
it booting
get
back
this
up?
up and running.
I can tell you in 40 years, I think that's the first power outage we've had while we had a meeting going on, so, and,
Apologize for this.
that's all right.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Just leave it at that for now.
All right, ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I finished that part on the preliminary. I do have some questions for the developer. Most have been answered, though, I appreciate it. Some of my questions go back to when we started this development a while back, and mine was on the extension of 220th, and when and how that's gonna be done. Tony explained, or, when and that's being worked on. The other thing is, and I'm not gonna get into it, but I know we talked about it a while back, is the consideration for those lots along 220th, things like that. And the other questions I got now are for the developer. What are the similarities or differences between these townhomes and the ones in the other parts of your development?
The townhomes will be the exact same
Okay.
home type.
And then could you just give, our residents and viewers some approximate market values of both that and the single family that you're thinking about? Not that we won't hold you to them, but.
Well, I appreciate that last comment. The market is always changing. So just so everyone is aware, the townhomes are 1,770 square feet. So I've got my notes here.
Okay.
The single-family homes, we're gonna have two different home products. One is gonna be a single story, one's gonna be a two-story. The single story is gonna be approximately 1,850 square feet and range from 350 to 400. And then the single-story, single-family home is approximately 1,150 feet, and that is gonna be about $340,000 to $350,000. All of these are going to be two-car units.
And are they slab on?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it the water table there? Yeah, okay. All right, I don't have any more questions. Again, for the commissioners, for our residents, we'll have another view of this in a little more detail with some of the questions, concerns that were brought up, answered, hopefully by final plat timeframe. So I'm comfortable at this point sending it to our city council. If the rest of the commission is, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Call the roll, please.
Roddy,
Yes.
Lado,
Yes.
Snowback,
Yes.
Winchell.
Yes.
In front of the commission then is a recommendation to our city council on Vermillion Commons 4th Edition preliminary plat and PUD development contingent upon the following: satisfaction of all engineering comments, requirements, including construction plans for most or all of the utilities. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for a favorable recommendation to our city council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Lado,
Yes.
Snowback,
Yes.
Winchell,
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes. All right, we'll move into our third public hearing. This is a petition to rezone properties from MUCI, which is mixed-use commercial industrial, to I industrial. The applicant is R&L Carriers. The location is Pilot Knob and 208th Street, which is just one road north of Highway 50 on the west side of our community. Tony, you're taking this one also?
I will, thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair. Yes, we have received a petition from R&L Carriers for the rezoning of two parcels that are located just south of 208th Street, adjacent to Pilot Knob Road. The PIDs are 14258520010, which is Outlot A of Farmington Industrial Park 3rd Edition. And the second one is PID 14258520020, and this is Outlot B, Farmington Industrial Park, 3rd Edition. Here on the zoning map, I do have the areas highlighted in red, the two parcels, so kind of circling them right there. The request is to rezone the above-mentioned parcels from MUCI, which is our mixed-use commercial industrial, to industrial, which is adjacent to the site currently. R&L Carriers, who again is the applicant, they are proposing expansion to their trucking terminal, which is located at 5260 208th Street West. The expansion will include a just over 76,000 square foot building expansion, along with paved surface parking and stormwater facilities. The expansion plan does require acquisition and combination of outlots A and B, along with lot 1, block 1 of Farmington Industrial Park 3rd Edition. This would be done via subdivision plat. And this would be combining it with R&L's existing site, again located at 5260 208th Street West. The existing site for R&L Carriers and Lot 1, Block 1, which is adjacent just to the what would be the northwest of R&L's existing site, are currently zoned I, or industrial, in which the truck terminals are conditional use. Outlots A and B, Farmington Industrial Park 3rd Edition, are currently zoned MUCI, which is our mixed-use commercial industrial, and truck terminals are neither permitted or conditional use in that particular zoning district, therefore necessitating the requested rezoning. The action that is requested this evening is to recommend approval of the rezoning of Outlot A and Outlot B, Farmington Industrial Park 3rd Edition, from MUCI mixed use commercial industrial to industrial, and for that recommendation on to the city council.
All right, thank you, Tony. We have a representatives from R&L. Mr. Richards, did you have anything to add to the staff report?
If I say next, can you click it down to the next one? Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Stan Richards. I'm Vice President of Construction with R&L Carriers. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and staff members. The reason for the expansion is very simple. The Minneapolis area is just exploding with freight right now. We are what is considered in an industry term as an LTL operation. That stands for less than loaded, very simple acronym there. What does that mean, Stan? Simply this: you don't have to be a large customer that ships full truckloads and 5 or 6 trucks at a time for us to come pick you up. If you make mini bikes out of the back of your garage and you just got 1 pallet of freight, we'll come by and pick it up. Our founder that started the company, Mr. Larry Roberts Sr., started off as 1 man, 1 truck, and he always said, we're going to service the small guys. If you could go to the next slide, please. Just a mission statement about our company, and I won't go through the details of it, but we service our customers. We're a good neighbor, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute or two. And we take care of our employees. Next slide, please. This is Ralph Lawrence Sr., Roberts Sr., standing beside the very first R&L truck in his driveway back in 1965 as a 19-year-old guy. And next slide, please. That's the fleet today that we use. So quite a bit of difference in trucks from what we use. You'll see several different types of trucks and trailers. And some are over the road, some are expedited trucks, and some are smaller trucks that would go into these residential areas on the occasion that one is needed to pick up the small operation at a garage. We boast of over 140 service centers across the United States, and we now have topped over 20,000 employees. Next slide, please. This was the first service center that he operated out of. Next slide. In Wilmington, Ohio. This is our corporate office today. 2 large 3-story corporate offices and the largest cross-dock facility in the United States with 485 doors. Next slide, please. Many wonder what our terminals look like. We try to aesthetically do a storefront with stucco finish on the front. This is exactly what we have in our current service center in Farmington. That's been there 20 years. I mentioned briefly that the market is exploding in the Minneapolis area, so much so that we have broke ground in Otsego on the northwest side of town. And during the process of breaking ground, we had allotted for 50 extra doors for future 5-10 years down the road. We had to go back to them 3 months ago and say, hey, we got to build those 50 doors while we're doing it. So it's just a lot of freight that's coming through this area. Next slide, please. This is one that we just built in Arlington, and as you can see, pretty much what you see when you drive by our facility today. Next slide. Let's keep on going because you'll be able to see this is what our docks look like on the inside. It's a clear span building, and that will be the continuation or the expansion of what we're doing. That simply means no columns or poles in the middle. Next slide, please. This is what our offices look like. Next slide. We'll have we currently have a shop there. We are going to add 1.5 bays to that current shop as well as expansion to the dock. That's where we do our oil changes, change the tires, batteries, lights, and so forth. Next slide, please. This is the inside of our shops. I boast about the fact that this shop had been open for 6 months when I took this picture. You say, wow, it looks new. It better. We put a lot of money into these things. And not only do we want our employees to take care of it, but it's a safety issue. We don't want grease and oil all over the floor as they're working. Next slide, please. We currently have a fuel island there. We will not be adding to the current fuel island. Next slide, please. I bring up this, and said that we are a good neighbor, and we certainly are. 65% of our service centers across the United States are adjoined to residential communities. This is our service center in the Memphis area, Arlington, Tennessee. You'll see a dirt area to the left of our terminal. We owned that for many years, and a developer came in and said, we want to build $800,000, $900,000 homes here. What's your point, Stan? You don't build an $800,000 home next to a truck terminal if you don't have a good reputation. Next slide, please. This is what we're proposing for our expansion. You'll see where we're going off at not quite a 45-degree angle there, but we're adding just a little over 100 doors to that. That means 50 doors on each side because it is a cross-dock facility. We're going to enlarge the stormwater detention area and just the maneuverability around the service center for our trucks to get around and go where they need to go. We're also expanding the employee parking lot. We anticipate to start off with, we'll add about 35 employees to our current count that is there. And respectfully, we're looking forward to expansion here in this community. We love this area. You guys are great to work with, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Before we get going, I just want to pass on to our residents and viewers here, you're a real quality company, and we appreciate you expanding in our community.
Thank you.
You're welcome. With that, then, this is a public hearing. Anybody have any comments or questions regarding this public hearing? Yes, ma'am, you come up to the podium, please.
Just very quickly, I was wondering if R&L is a union shop and what the average pay will be for the 35 new employees.
Mr. Richards, are those questions that you want to answer?
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
We are not a union shop. However, our wages are above union wages. Depending on the personnel, you have staff in the office, administrative staff, customer service. Those range anywhere between $18, $22 an hour, depending on what level of administrative staff you are. Then you have our dock workers, which operates our forklifts. They range between $22 and $27 an hour. And then our truck drivers, of course, are CDL drivers, and they go up over $28, $29 an hour to start, and it just goes up from there.
All right, thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Commissioner Leto.
I don't have any questions. That looks really good. Thank you.
Commissioner Snowbeck.
Yeah, is there any concern about additional semis going out on Pilot Knob there with the road without having a turn lane or anything? Have you guys thought about that? The number of vehicles?
So that's a great question. There is a small misconception that if you're adding 70, 80, 100 doors, that you're going to be adding 70, 80, 100 trucks. Not the case with this situation. The freight comes in such a volume that you have to break it apart. All of our freight is on pallets. We don't handle packages, so we're not the Amazon delivery or FedEx. If it's not on a pallet, we're not going to ship it. So our forklifts go in and they bring the freight off. If you walk down the middle of our dock on the inside of our building, sir, you would see signs that say Los Angeles, New Orleans, New York City. I'll attribute it to like a mail carrier. He goes out and delivers the mail, and I'm old school, so he has his mail bag. He's going to deliver the mail, and as he's delivering the mail, he's going to be picking up mail. That's what our truck drivers do. They're our mailmans, if you will. When they come back in, the mailman would drop his bag into a sorter and it would sort out and go to the different cities respectfully. That's what our forklift drivers do. The trailers are the mail bags, if you will. We don't have an internal sorter like you'd see at a post office. So our forklift drivers have to take the freight off and distribute it to different trailers so that it goes in the proper areas. The freight has such a volume to it right now that we're handling it 2 and 3 times, which is not productive or cost effective. So we need more trailer space and dock space to separate that freight. We'll only add, out of those 70 to 100 doors that we're gonna add there, we'll only add about 6 to 8 trucks on our routes, what we're currently doing. The biggest reason for the expansion is the dock space.
So average trucks that are leaving and coming a day in the current site is, you have 20 semis coming through, or?
No, sir. We have right around, I'm thinking about this side here, we have right around 70 to 75 trucks. So it'll go up to 80, 85 tops. And let me say one more thing on the traffic. Our truck drivers come in at 8 a.m. in the morning, and they sporadically leave between 8 and 11 a.m., depending on when the freight's ready to go out. We can't leave too soon. It's kind of like if you've ever been on an airplane and you're waiting for that one person that was late on another plane, and you're sitting there and finally he comes walking through. Sometimes we wait for one pallet of freight to go out. So it could be between 8 and 11 a.m. From 11 a.m. to about 4:30 or 5, when all the trucks start returning, it's quiet, not a lot of activity. And then from about 4:30 to about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, the freight picks back up and, they distribute again. I hope that answered your question.
It does, thank you.
Anything else, Mitch?
Nope.
Commissioner Winchell?
Just question, curious, how many current employees are out there?
135?
And I thought your PowerPoint was great. I appreciate it. It looked good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did a nice job, whether through the commissioner's questions or your thing. I don't have a lot. Other than Tony, this would require a conditional use permit?
It
So
will
it'll be a
require
public
conditional
hearing.
use permit, will require plating.
Yeah.
So as part of all of that, you will see a official site plan for that, so.
So, I mean, it's a good start, great start, actually, and go from there. I mean, I looked at the number of trucks. Stormwater pond seemed large to me, but must be what it takes to handle all the water with your asphalt out there.
Respectfully, we don't want to make them that large, but they have to be.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of, impervious out
Yep.
there and,
Yes, sir.
whether it be building or that, so that's fine. I think you started with hours of operation, that's always a question. I mean, it's out in an industrial park, so it isn't as, it's significant, but not as significant to some of our residents, because they're not right around there, but, you said you started 8?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Our forklift drivers come in at 5 o'clock in
Okay.
the morning, and they fill up the trucks till the
Okay.
drivers get there, and they go at, the drivers get there at 8. So the great thing about it is we're not all leaving at the same time. It'd be 2 or 3 trucks at a time.
Okay, yeah, other than that, I had my questions answered through, like I said, Commissioner, you, so you guys did a great job, I appreciate you and your additional, help back there, that, did a great job. With that, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, call the roll, please.
Snowbeck,
Yes.
Winchell,
Yes.
Roddy,
Yes.
Plato.
Yes.
In front of the commission then is a recommendation to our city council rezoning, what we'll call Outlot A and Outlot B, Farmington Industrial Park Third Edition, from MUCI to industrial. This be a recommendation to our city council. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a favorable recommendation to our city council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Not call the roll, please.
Winchell,
Yes.
Roddy,
Yes.
Plato,
Yes.
Snowbeck.
Yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming tonight. We'll see you, I'm sure, in the future.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that concludes our public hearings for tonight. We have one discussion item, and this is new to the community and to the commission. It's a discussion on the cannabis businesses and zoning. So, that's fine, Tony. And this is a discussion item, so the commission is just starting to hear about this.
To get to it here in my packet. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, commission members. As you are likely aware, the Minnesota legislature enacted some new laws back last year regarding cannabis. This legislation includes things such as establishing the Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, the legalizing and limiting the possession and use of cannabis and certain hemp products by adults, providing for the licensing, inspection, and regulation of cannabis and hemp businesses, taxing sale of cannabis flowers, cannabis products, and certain hemp products, and then providing for temporary regulation of edible cannabinoid products. Part of what we're looking at doing, and also with this particular legislation, is it does provide for the city to enact what's called a moratorium. Being that the city will need to look at zoning to address some of these new regulations and uses that the state is now allowing. So as part of that, what we're looking to potentially do is do a moratorium and then start to kind of study not only location of where these type of businesses can or should go, along with updating our official zoning ordinance to address them, everything from definitions to regulations from anything from potential distance from other uses, things like that. The state is working on a model ordinance to help cities to try to address some of these issues. That ordinance is currently only in draft format and is not quite ready to be distributed and utilized. They're still going through multiple revisions of that draft ordinance, but we hope to have that within the next month or two. That will at least help us, or at least provide us a guide for how we can update our regulations to be in compliance with what the state has enacted. So really what I wanted to do tonight is to share our zoning table with the commission. It lists all the uses that are identified within our current zoning ordinance and provides the commission where they are either listed as permitted uses, conditional uses, or accessory uses. And I'm not necessarily looking for any specific guidance this evening, but I wanted to at least get the commission to start to think about this so that when we do start the actual discussion on the ordinance itself, we can have kind of a game plan, if you will, for how we can move this thing forward. Because one way or the other, we will have to address it. It's just a matter of what that looks like. So that's really what I wanted to address with you this evening, is just to get you to start to think about that. So, and if you have any immediate inclinations, I'm more than willing to take those this evening as well. So,
All right, thank you, Tony. I'm going to ask Commissioner Winchell from his public safety background if you want to start our discussion.
Yeah, I guess, just from my experience, to be honest, I haven't seen cities have a real issue with, I shouldn't say the cities, but the reservation, let's say, there hasn't been a whole ton of problems reported based on the sale of marijuana, based on the product sales. I know there is discussion amongst cities about cities owning tobacco or owning marijuana facilities, just like liquor stores.
yep.
I think a lot of cities are looking at that and regulating it themselves.
Right, because per the legislation, every city, depending on your population, will have to at least allow either one or two, depending on or multiple, I guess, depending on your population size. And yes, there are communities that are currently looking at becoming a, like a municipal liquor, being a municipal distributor, if you will. I don't know that that's something that we've really discussed in depth. So I can't really speak to whether or not that's
Yeah,
something
it's
we
just-
would want to do,
Yeah,
but
a discussion point that I
Right.
know I'm sure will be brought up at some point. And-
yeah,
and
it will
again,
be brought up.
Since the legalization of marijuana, from my perspective, my job, it hasn't changed, the totality of the job, of doing the job, of creating more crime, stuff like that. I do, looking at the zoning table, obviously, certainly a distance away from parks and schools is a
Right.
plus and a mandatory, so, just looking at the table off the top of my head.
Thank you, Phil. Mitch?
Just some of the same thoughts and with schools and parks. Would it be similar, looking at similar spots that you allow liquor stores and businesses like that? Is that where you see the possibility of the future?
That could be a possibility. That would be more of a likely possibility. Again, I think we would want to have some additional requirements on it. Like you and Commissioner Winchell had mentioned, as far as maybe having a distance from parks, from a school, things like that, to where we can regulate it a little bit better. But yeah, I would think that would be a logical conclusion, is that it would be in a similar type of situation as a municipal liquor store or a liquor store.
Has the city, have people been coming asking about opening in the
We
city of
we
Farmington?
have had a couple inquiries, so they're not flooding in, but we have had a handful of inquiries. At this point, we've told them, our zoning ordinance doesn't address them. We're looking at, obviously doing the moratorium, doing a study of it, and then, getting those regulations in place, so.
Is there an idea of how long the moratorium will be, or is it based upon the legislation at the state level?
It's based on the legislation at the state level. Right now, the moratorium goes through the end of the year.
Okay.
So it's a tight window.
Well, thank you.
Leanne?
Yeah, I guess my main questions would be regarding the edible portion of it, because I know there's already a market for drinks and different, like candy and food and things like that. So obviously I'd want to have the same regulations regarding, schools and parks and those kind of things. But if there were a restaurant, for example, that wanted to offer those in addition to alcohol, it would be something that we want to make sure that we're
Right.
including all of that in it, or if there's someone that has, and also I want to mention too, like cottage industry as well. If you have like a bake sale or something, we'd want to make sure we're regulating like a small business or something that's happening in that area, to make sure that we're not having, cross-contamination is not the right word, but making sure that there's not some instance where we have someone making an unfortunate mistake and putting things where they shouldn't be, kind of thing, so.
And on that, just a top point on that, other states I know have the THC drinks in the bar.
Yeah.
And one of the questions the servers ask is, have you, had a THC drink within so many hours? Because they won't serve you alcohol if you've had a THC drink within the last like 2 hours, if you've had 2 of them. I don't know the exact requirement, but it's certainly something to think about, because I'm sure we'll get asked.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's all I really have.
Thanks, Leanne.
Yep.
I think at this point in time, I think it's easier for me and maybe for the other commissioners to kind of suggest areas that we don't think it's appropriate, and maybe the areas that we do. I mean, I heard, schools, parks, probably places of worship that, or a separation, and I remember in the past, there's other types of businesses that I won't name, but that came to the community, and, we went through the same process, and the moratorium will be a council decision, I think with 6 months left. I suspect they probably might take advantage of it, just because we don't got much time, and to get a full-blown ordinance going takes some time, and I think waiting for that model ordinance might be a good start for our community. rather than trying to
I agree.
or create something that,
Right.
that at least I'm not real familiar with, and maybe others are much more. But this may be one, Tony, that if we happen to have an opportunity to sit down with our city council at some point, that maybe we could add this as a topic and make sure that the council and the commission and staff are at least in sync on what we're thinking, because, I mean, this is new. I mean, we've heard about it, and I know other states are doing it, so we're not gonna be creating something totally new, but it's new for our community, and we want to do the right thing for our residents, and, but also keep in mind that there's a business out there, and we'll see what happens with that, but gosh, we sure don't want to harm or impact any people that don't intend to be impacted on it, so.
And I think you can learn a lot too from other cities that have created the ordinance, or other states for that matter,
Yeah.
size similar, like, you know, just to see and get an input from them.
Right.
Yeah.
As to what worked well, what didn't work.
It's created out there, it's just not yet
Yeah,
here, and we want to make sure we do what's right for our community, which may be similar. Tony, have we given you enough information, as obscure as it is?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I wasn't necessarily expecting anything concrete from any of you on it. I wanted to at least get it out to you guys so you can at least begin
Yeah.
thinking about it.
We figured it was coming, I just didn't know when. I mean, you hear everything on the news, and I go, okay, it's coming to town, and.
Yeah, we'll
have
have
to
to
deal with it at
address it
some
one
point.
way or the other.
Exactly, I agree with that,
So,
so, okay.
There be an opportunity to address the planning commission about this subject?
This subject, Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, about this
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Again, my name's Nate Ryan, and I've worked regionally as a regional director for a large real estate franchise, and I've dealt with marijuana. I'm not going to call it cannabis. It's not cannabis. It's called marijuana. So, but with marijuana and in my real estate career and helping franchisees, there is less of an issue with where it's sold. There is more and bigger of an issue with where it's grown. And I really think that your questions should be, where are we going to allow grow facilities? Because that's what's going to come next.
Okay.
So as this goes on with the state, because grow facilities take vast amounts of electricity and they take vast amounts of water. So, and permitting that here is something that I really would consider that this commission really start to think about. I'll give you a case study in Oklahoma, in rural areas of Oklahoma, after they allowed marijuana to be grown, local small Dakota electric companies had to stop offering service to their rural customers, many of the rural customers, because these grow operations were taking so much electricity. So, and it's phase 3 electric. It's not just something that's just, you plug in a lamp into your wall like we used to do in the 70s or 60s. I don't know when you guys grew up, but it's much more sophisticated than that. So growing in operation is much more of a concern, in my opinion, than where it's sold. The other thing that you have to really consider is that the city of Farmington is already selling THC in their liquor stores. So for you to say a moratorium, I think is laughable, because you're already allowing it. And you're already allowing it in your liquor stores. I can go to either of your liquor stores today, and I can buy THC infused drinks in your liquor stores today. So it's too late. I mean, it's already, you've already created a standard about where sales can take place. Again, I can go to any liquor store, either one of yours in Farmington today, and buy marijuana infused drinks.
I didn't know that.
So,
I haven't went
This
there
is,
or
it's
asked
too
for
little
it,
too
so.
late, again, from Mr. Whippler.
Well, okay.
I don't know about that. It's,
Maybe I got a question. So grow might be one, but and maybe Phil or Tony, you could help me in this. Would any ordinance address possibly where it could be used also? I know there was some concern about, some cities had that I heard about not being able to use it in parks if there's,
some have,
around school grounds or.
some have addressed it through their ordinance for specifically parks, I think has been the one that's been
That's what I remember
utilized
hearing. So
the most.
keep that in the back of your mind,
So-
whether it comes up or not. Maybe Phil has more information on that.
And I know,
yeah, no, I know there's lots of ordinances, and cities are still creating the ordinance on parks, more or less, is the big issue. And I know a lot of cities, you can smoke marijuana in a park, but you can't smoke cigarettes.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so tell me that, like.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's, you know, no, I shouldn't say a lot of cities, I know some cities that.
Okay. I guess. This is new. For an old guy, this is new, so. All right, Tony, you got enough then?
I got
All
enough,
right,
thank
is there
you.
anything else from staff?
Nothing.
Anything else from the commission? If not, I'll remind our residents and viewers, our next regular meeting is July 9th, and with it, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We're officially adjourned, thank you.